nothing else, young man, get back on the football field and let your play speak for itself. And what you do off the field, don't let too many people know, because they're going to judge you anyway.
That was Ray Lewis on Colin Kaepernick, and this is SI Now on Wednesday, August 2nd. I'm Robin Lundberg. Here's the thing. Colin Kaepernick cannot let his play speak for him if he doesn't have a team. And everything he has done off the field this offseason has seemed extremely positive and charitable to me. Personally, I'm tired of people spinning this as if Kaepernick is a guy who has done something wrong when there are criminals in the NFL who are far less controversial. Now, I'm sure some of you're tired of hearing about this story. But until he lands on a team, as he should, it will remain a trending topic. To touch on that and a bunch of what is going on the field in training camps, I'm joined now by the MMQB's Peter King. Peter, obviously we in the media have spent a lot of time talking about Colin Kaepernick. I'm curious how much talk there's been about him behind the scenes with teams and in NFL circles.
A lot, Robin. I think the big topic of conversation is who's going to spin the wheel, who's going to take the shot. And I think in the corporate community right now, he is, he's radioactive to a lot of teams and to a lot of people. Now, I've maintained this right from the start, that the big thing about Colin Kaepernick is he's going to get on a team. It's going to be a big story for a day or two, and after that, he's going to be a football player. So to me, I still think he should have a spot. He should have a home. I was in Seattle. I'm in Seattle right now at the airport getting ready to go to my next stop. But, the Seahawks obviously thought seriously about bringing him in. And it's a pretty big mystery as to why they didn't. But I believe that it has a lot to do with the whole radioactive nature of who he is right now. And so we'll see. I mean, I personally hope. I think he'd be a good fit in Baltimore and would be a good guy for that team, as an insurance policy for Joe Flacco.
Peter, you're on a tour of West Coast training camps, so let's move to some actual football talk from the camp tour, starting with the Raiders. Marshawn Lynch has been all of the talk. How much and how well do you expect him to play at his age after taking that time off?
Well, I went into camp on Monday in Oakland expecting to see a Marshawn Lynch who was going to be a complementary piece to the Oakland offense. That's not the case. They want him to be perhaps not an every down player, but to touch the ball 15 times a game. And to have him healthy, obviously, for 16 weeks. But to me, the difficult part of that is that, when he left Seattle, he was beginning to be a broken down player. Now, he's had 1 year of recuperative, no football. And, I saw him the other day. It looks like he's in really good shape. And look, the Raiders need his edge. Reggie McKenzie, the general manager, told me we need him. We know he's beast mode. We need the rest of this team to be beast mode. We need his toughness. So as of right now, the honeymoon is on in Oakland. In 5 weeks from now, they believe that he will be their main ball carrier when they go to Tennessee for opening day.
Next up, let's go to the Seahawks. Aside from the Patriots, they've been the model franchise in the NFL of late. This year, would you say they are trending up or down?
That's a great question. I mean, you always talk about with teams, veteran teams especially, and this team's going to have 6 defensive starters, 28 or older. You always talk about how long your window can be open and all that. And I think that kind of talk really ticks off the Seahawks because they still think they're in their prime. We'll see this year. I think it's all going to come down to, quite honestly, whether they can protect Russell Wilson. This is a team that never seems to spend any draft capital, or at least high round draft capital. Enough of it on the offensive line. And so we'll see. But Russell Wilson staying upright is a crucial thing for this team.
We're going all over the place, as you are. You're doing this from an airport. Next up, Denver. It's been the question since Peyton Manning left, and even for a bit while he was there. Who's going to be the Broncos quarterback?
After being there for a day and taking the temperature of the place. This is the sense I get. Trevor Siemian starts the season. Paxton Lynch comes in and plays a significant amount of time this year. That would be my gut feeling. If I had to go to Vegas and put a nickel down on an outcome with their quarterback situation, that's what I would guess. There's no question that there is some impatience to see Paxton Lynch in the lineup. But if he gets outplayed in training camp by Siemian, Siemian will go opening day. I would say right now, very slightly, Siemian's got an edge.
On to the Rams, and sticking with quarterbacks, it's training camp, so of course the positivity is palpable from reports. From your perspective, where is Jared Goff at right now?
I think he's got to prove that he's accurate enough as a quarterback, that he's a good enough leader on the field. He's got to prove a lot. I mean, Robin, I do not think there is a player under more pressure in the NFL this year than Jared Goff. Because keep this in mind, not only does he have to prove that he's a good NFL quarterback, which is a daunting task anyway, but he also has to basically carry a franchise on his shoulders right now and make sure that by mid-October people aren't staying away from the Coliseum in droves. I mean, the Rams have to show some progress this year. It can't be another 5-11 season or 4-12 or 7-9, whatever. I mean, they have to win some games. And so that's why there's so much pressure on Goff. He not only has to do his job, but he's got to lift this franchise that has been in the doldrums for the last half decade.
Finally, the Chargers head coach Anthony Lynn denied blocking Antonio Gates and Phillip Rivers from attending LaDainian Tomlinson's Hall of Fame enshrinement. Peter, Lynn, new coach in a new city. How would you say it's working out so far?
I think very well. One of the things that I wrote this week and that I feel strongly about is that this team has handled the move about as well as I think you can, because, look, it helps. It's only 80 miles up the road from San Diego, where their training facility is going to be in Orange County, south of L.A. It helps that happens, but also they spent their entire offseason in San Diego at their facility. They didn't move. The players and coaches and staff didn't move until late June and July. The big question, I think, in terms of that is, what's going to happen with Phillip Rivers? He's going to commute from San Diego. He didn't want to move his family. I think Anthony Lynn is a little bit skeptical of whether that's going to work. We'll see if it does. But I just think in general right now that this organization is relying on Lynn to be sort of a beacon of consistency. They've loved what they've seen so far. Some of the veterans on that team who I talked to really, really like this guy. So, we'll see how it goes. But I'm glad for Lynn that he got a shot, and I think he's with the right team.
Peter, appreciate your time this morning. Clearly, you're a very busy guy.
Thanks very much, Robin. Good to be with you.
Now, we just mentioned LaDainian Tomlinson going into the Hall. I had a chance to talk to another new entrant, Kurt Warner. Joining us now, Hall of Fame quarterback. I think we're good to say that as he gets enshrined on Saturday night. Kurt Warner. Kurt, first of all, congratulations. And I'm sure by now everyone's heard your story. But do you ever still sit back and go, wow, I can't believe I'm about to go into the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, there's been so many different things that you sit back and you're kind of in awe because it's so surreal on how things played out. So I've dealt with that feeling quite often throughout my career. But, no question. When you don't start your first NFL game till you're 28, and then you have some of the bumps in the road like I did, you never really think about the Hall of Fame. You just think about taking advantage of your opportunities and doing the best you can with the time that you get. So what a tremendous honor to be selected now one of the 310 people that are in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Have you seen your Hall of Fame bust? Do you think they got your good side?
The guy that sculpted the bust did tell me, he goes, one thing you don't like to do is you don't like to reveal the bust for the first time to the person live, because if there's something they don't like about it, you can't hide that reaction. So I have been a part of the process. You get to a certain point where then you kind of turn it over to the creative license of the guy sculpting it. But I was part of the process, so I have seen it. I'm not going to be completely surprised by what I see, and I think people are going to like it.
Now, obviously, you'll put that bust on display. If you could pick just one item from your career to put on display, what would it be?
Wow. I think if you pick one item, you got to pick a Super Bowl ring, because that's really what it's all about. In the ultimate team game, it's about being together with a team and accomplishing something that nobody else does, and at least for a moment, being the best in the world.
So it's safe to assume if you're choosing between a Super Bowl and a Hall of Fame career, you're taking the Super Bowl?
Oh, no question about it. Because at the end of the day, what you love so much about it is what you do with your teammates, what you do with your team. It's why I play the game. And when you get on that Hall of Fame stage, it's so much about you. So for me, that's what I love so much. I love 11 guys having to come together to accomplish one goal. So without question, if it came down to winning Super Bowls or getting in the Hall of Fame, no question I'd pick the Super Bowls.
Speaking of some of those teammates, you played with some great ones, Bruce Holt and Falk, in The Greatest Show on Turf, then later Tiki Barber and Larry Fitzgerald. Who was your personal favorite weapon during your NFL career?
Well, that's always a loaded question because I played with so many great ones. But the best player that I ever played with, most complete player that I ever played was Marshall Falk. He was just so special from so many different standpoints. I mean, physically, he was gifted, had great vision, had great ability, unique ability. Mentally, he was, the sharpest player that I've ever been around outside of the quarterback position, just because the quarterbacks are asked to do all the things that they do. Marshall could have played the quarterback as well.
You got your start in NFL Europe for the Amsterdam Admirals. The NFL doesn't really have a developmental league right now, but it has been debated whether they should start one up. Should they?
Definitely. Why not? I mean, the only way to get better at the game is to play the game. From the time I got cut by Green Bay in '94 until the day I retired in 2009, Brett Favre didn't miss a single start in the NFL. So had I been a backup, I would have been sitting on the bench those 4 years that I was playing arena football and in Europe and getting all these reps and all these chances to play. I would have been sitting on the bench not getting any better or not getting any quality reps. So, a lot of people look at it and say, well, man, that was awful. You got cut. For me, it was a huge blessing because when I got my second chance, I had been prepared for the last 4 years to see everything you could possibly see on a football field. And I was ready to take advantage of the opportunity when I got it.
Kurt Warner, thanks again for joining us, and congratulations on your Hall of Fame induction. Colin Kaepernick's job status, the league's handling of domestic violence, constant penalties and commercial breaks, and the pursuit of every last dollar over the good of the product. These are just some of the issues plaguing America's most popular entertainment source. But none of those are the NFL's biggest problem, which is quite simply the very nature of the game. The topic of the danger of football has once again come to the forefront of conversation following the latest CTE study, and after Jets rookie safety Jamal Adams called the football field the perfect place to die. As long as football is allowed and sanctioned, it should be a player's choice to play. I just hope they do so with full awareness of the risks. Yet, it is also our choice to watch. And that is a question I find myself dealing with more and more. Should I? Of course I still do, or I wouldn't be standing here giving this spiel. You see, guilty pleasure usually means something else. But for me, the NFL is now a guilty pleasure in the most literal sense. I realize measures are being taken to make the game safer. However, there's only so much that can be done without changing the very essence of such a violent sport. Seatbelts make car crashes safer, but they are still car crashes. I've already made the decision that my son won't play football. The far more difficult decision is whether it is something I should continue to support. Trust me, I'd much rather not think about it and simply push it to the back of my mind while setting my fantasy lineup. After all, my mind isn't the one in real danger every Sunday.
Peter Peter Feigin, the Milwaukee Bucks, is here. Really great to see you, and thank you so much for coming in. This is exciting stuff that's happening in Milwaukee right now. It's not just the new stadium that's going to be opening next year, but it's really a revitalization of the downtown. And I'm curious how much of the short-term success of this arena and this team is really on the broad shoulders of Giannis Antetokounmpo, the Greek freak.
Well, I think Giannis is our roadmap. I think we've got one of the rare opportunities to take a guy who's become an NBA superstar in a very short time and kind of have 4 years and build around him for an NBA championship. So it's kind of the blessing. In Milwaukee, we're kind of working the miracle trifecta where we can build an arena, rebuild a team, and develop like an entire neighborhood at the same time. All those things that usually take decades or times, like we're kind of condensing into a 2 to 4 year period and kind of pushing the start over button.
Yeah, it's the accelerated version of the Milwaukee Bucks, even though the franchise is celebrating its 50th anniversary this season, which is exciting. You worked for the New York Knicks for a long time. They have this reputation for being a very dysfunctional front office. And, things in Milwaukee are good. Nothing's ever perfect. And I'm just curious if you can lean on anything that you learned from New York when it seems like the owners can't agree on who should be the GM.
Well, it's interesting. It's kind of apples and oranges, like both cities, and our ownership is completely different. So we have 3 primary owners that couldn't be more different, but more united kind of in decision making. So they're all motivated on the same thing, like to make the right reasons to win. We actually have 3 guys who care more about the people in the organization, the success of the organization than anything else, and they're all maniacally competitive.
Yeah.
So I mean that's another driving force is it's all geared towards winning.
I remember reading a quote of yours where you said, I think that you said your father had told you this: if you walk into a room and you're the smartest person in it, you should run out of that room immediately. So it sounds like you're in good company with some smart people with your ownership. Can we talk about ticket sales and things like this for a minute, just to get your perspective on this? Because obviously the Golden State Warriors are also moving into a new arena soon. It looks like they're going to be selling personal seat licenses. Steve Ballmer, the owner of the Clippers, has said, maybe they'd look into having this sort of membership, like a club that you'd have to be a part of and pay an admission fee to even purchase a ticket. Do you feel like that's fair?
Well, I don't know if it's fair. We've obviously looked at that and done case studies on everything, and we've taken the completely opposite route. So we've designed an open concourse arena. We want everybody to feel like part of a community and involved. We want a lot of people to have access to clubs and access to different sight lines. We understand what monetizing is. We're certainly part of a growth business. We get it. We just don't think that direction of personal licenses is the way to go in Milwaukee specifically.
You have to be thinking, I'm sure, a little bit about augmented reality, virtual reality, and just how we're going to be consuming games in the future. And by we, I mean not just the media, but the fans as well. And I'm curious if you've seen anything that you feel like is going to be working in the near future.
Well, I think, and again, timing-wise is always interesting with technology, but we're jumping from HD, which is almost every arena, to 4K, and now there's this huge leap to 8K. So if you start putting 8K on your televisions in the arena and in your suites and in your clubs, and you build big boards outside, your viewership parties, your experience indoors is so transformed that it's almost live, and it's getting there. And it'll be, and I think it enhances the game. I mean, the more of this real game we can bring to people, the more we market, the bigger audience base we have.
Yeah, somebody is going to figure this out, right? Somebody is going to crack this nut of what the next technological advancement is going to be in sports and media. How confident are you that the NBA is going to be that entity?
Pretty confident, because we have an unimaginable international base, unlike any other sport in the world. Just by that part that we've got Board of Governor members who are on like the cutting edge and have their finger on the pulse of where broadcast is going and where technology is going is a huge advantage. So I think we will get there, no question.
Interesting. One owner we did not talk about is Leslie Alexander, the Houston Rockets, who wants to sell his team. So as someone who's on the inside here, the Bucks sold for $550 million. That was right when you came to work for them. That was a record at the time. Then the Clippers sell for $2 billion. So Peter, where on the spectrum do you think the Rockets would fall?
I couldn't even guess, but my guess is between the $1 and $2 billion range.
Not more than that.
I'd be hard pressed. But you know what? These prices of teams are based on demand. They're certainly not based on true enterprise value. I mean, and they're all owned by very sophisticated investors. And to go, I mean, I think the real claim to fame is you are investing in these teams. I mean, the day the LA Clippers sold for $2 billion, the Bucks investment looked like literally became the greatest sports investment in the history of the world, just based on market demand and what the price went up. So I don't think there's a ceiling for it. I think there's this desire, and there are people who desperately want to run and manage professional sports teams. They understand the enterprise value. They understand the prospect of the brands, and it'll just keep going up.
Yeah, well, when you have a talent like Giannis, you have Malcolm Brogdon, just won Rookie of the Year. I'd say that you guys are off to a really great start here.
Unless you've been living under a rock, the fight between Mayweather and McGregor has been the talk of the summer. Everyone has an opinion on this bout, including IBF welterweight champion Errol Spence Jr. He also sat down with Maggie Gray and shared his thoughts on the fight and why he believes Mayweather has enough in the tank to knock out the Irishman.
IBF welterweight champion Errol Spence Jr., fresh off of your title, how does it feel to be called champion? Does it feel like you thought it would?
Not necessarily. This is a lifelong dream of mine, but, I still have a lot of goals that I haven't accomplished, like becoming the undisputed welterweight champion of the world. So it's still a lot of names out there that, I want to fight, and a lot of titles out there that I want to conquer.
For people out there who are saying, okay, you want to fight Thurman, you want to fight Pacquiao, slow down, you might be getting in over your head. What do you say to them?
They said I was getting over my head when it was announced that I was going, basically overseas to fight Kell Brook in his hometown in front of 27,000 fans. Kell Brook was supposed to be this big, dangerous fighter. I went over there and took the belt from him like I said I was going to do. So, I'm exceeding all the expectations from, my fans and peers and, everybody that's involved with boxing.
People have compared you to Sugar Ray Leonard.
Yeah.
What do you think about those comparisons? Do they match?
That's an honor. Just to be compared to a guy like Sugar Ray Leonard, who did great inside and outside the ring, and basically was an all-time great. And just for people to mention me with his name, my name with his name, that's a great honor. And I just have to fill those shoes now, and I think I'm on a great job of doing it. But it's still a long way to go to fill somebody like Sugar Ray Leonard's shoes.
You talk a lot about your legacy. Seems like you're kind of in tune with it, even though you're in the midst of your career. You want to be known as the greatest boxer. You are focused in on the sport. Do you find that maybe you are the exception and not the rule? Are boxers almost more concerned about their image, keeping an undefeated record, handpicking their fights more than actually getting down to the business of fighting?
A lot of it, yeah. To me, it's a lot of smoke and mirrors. Cause it's a lot of boxers who say, I'll fight anybody, I'll fight him, and then, once their manager calls them or promoter or, the fight's on the table, they don't take it. And for me, I'm all about my legacy. I want to be mentioned with Sugar Ray Leonard and Marvin Hagler and all these all-time great fighters. And for me to do that, I have to fight the best, I have to beat the best. Like me going to the UK, that was a legacy-defining, fight for me. And I accomplished that. So now it just is onward.
You've sparred with one of the greatest boxers of all time, and that's Floyd Mayweather. What was that sparring session like? What was that experience like for you?
Oh, it was a crazy experience. It was surreal just to be in there with Floyd Mayweather and just the whole experience thing, because he's just a smart fighter, and I learned a lot from him. Like, that was my first time being in camp with somebody like him and somebody who's training for a world title fight. So I got to, and I'm only 4 fights in, so I basically got to pick his brain, just watch him and how he move in camp and what the kind of stuff that he does, and just being in the ring with him, he's just so smart. Like, being in the ring with him is like playing chess, high-speed chess. It's like, it's physically demanding, but it's more mentally demanding on you too, because he's always thinking. He's like a computer, like he's thinking nonstop.
Okay, he's also 40 years old. Be honest, has Floyd lost a step?
I think with age, everybody naturally loses a step. Of course, he's not moving like he used to. He's not as fast as he used to. When he's younger, he used to knock people out. But, even if with him losing a step, he's still, a step ahead of most fighters. So, of course he lost a step with age, but he's still a step ahead of most fighters.
Do you feel like no question he would knock out McGregor? You mentioned he hasn't knocked out anyone in a while. The last one was Victor Ortiz, and that was under some interesting circumstances.
I thought he could knock out McGregor. McGregor is a guy that has no boxing experience at all. You know, he has 0 fights. You know, he's a guy who just started training in boxing probably, like a year now, 8 months. And I feel like if guys who's been boxing and training since they was 5, 6 years old can't beat him, why a guy who's been training for a year can beat him. So I don't see it at all.
I'd like to play a quick game of true or false with you, since you are the truth. You tell us true or false, I'll ask you a question. LeBron James will retire as the greatest basketball player of all time. Is that true or false?
True.
All right. Are you in the LeBron camp right now, or are you a Michael Jordan person?
I like Jordan, but I'm a LeBron guy.
True or false, you would beat Floyd Mayweather if he was in his prime and you in your prime?
True. I got to be confident in my own abilities.
True or false, Conor McGregor has no business in a boxing ring?
True.
And finally, considering you are a Texas guy, the Dallas Cowboys will make it to the Super Bowl this year. Is that true or false?
Double true.
Double true. Did you see that the Cowboys are going to keep Tony Romo's locker intact? Yeah. How do you feel about that? Is that going to prohibit Dak Prescott from really taking over the team and then moving on from Romo?
Yeah, I feel like, Jerry Jones is kind of keeping Tony Romo on ice a little bit. That's why Tony Romo didn't go to a different team. That's why he gave him that job, just to see what Dak does. And then if he doesn't do well, bring Tony Romo in.
Wait, are you saying you think that's a possibility if Dak has a sophomore slump that they call Romo out of the broadcast booth?
I think they might, or they're just doing that just to keep Dak on his toes. Because, why would you keep his locker and, he didn't go to a different team. He just retired and, he's basically just waiting in the shadows a little bit. So, I don't know. It's kind of suspicious. We'll see.
We certainly will. Errol, congratulations, champ. Really nice to meet you, and good luck moving forward. Can't wait to see who you fight next.
Thank you.
Finally, LaVar Ball is in the news again. This time because Michael Jordan responded to his boast, saying at his basketball camp he could beat Ball in a game of one-on-one, even if he was one-legged. Of course, this isn't worthy of serious analysis, as MJ was simply trying to dismiss LaVar's ridiculousness, even though I think even I could beat a one-legged MJ in hoops. Don't tell him I said that. I've seen many a think piece wondering why we are so infatuated with LaVar Ball's every utterance. And every single one of them is in a sense hypocritical, as attention is to LaVar Ball as spinach is to Popeye. The more you give him, the stronger he gets. So if you want less of LaVar Ball, stop paying attention to him, or else stop complaining. That's it for today's SI Now Live. Catch us again tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Eastern, and make sure you follow us at SI Now Live and stay locked to SI.com. Have a good one.